cracked earth over lava effect bases. This is the end result, what you want to end up with, and you do it over any sort of base. I chose an old poker chip from my other one, and it doesn't matter. We're using a round one in this example here, well, to begin with, and prime with Chaos Black, just because it's what I had on hand. I always prime them when I'm putting paint on them. So what we're going to do, you want to get the underneath of the cracked earth, which is the lava itself, which is reds and oranges and yellows. So that's what it will look like, something like that, which is the base we'll be working on later on once I've shown you how to do that. It's fairly straightforward. Okay, so we're going to take our round base, which I got from my Age of Sigmar set, and then we're going to start with Mephiston Red. Probably my favourite red base coat. I always use this when I'm doing reds somewhere along the lines. Lovely colour, and it covers beautifully. Now, as you will see, there is no artistry involved in this whatsoever. Just glob that paint on. Just spread out over the entire base. I mean, you can, on this first one, I suppose, do a thinner coat. Don't thin them down with water or anything, just straight from the pot. So I suppose you can if you wanted to. I don't, because I like the unevenness of it. Plus, I want the other colours to mix in with it whilst it's still wet. So I'm just plopping it out of the pot, slapping it on that base, and just swishing it around. That's literally all the skill it takes to do this. Next up, Evil Sun Scarlet for the next lighter red. Same sort of thing. And by the way, you'll go through several brushes. When I say go through, I mean you'll use them up in this one turn. So grab yourself a handful of brushes, one for each colour you're going to be using, just to make it quick and easy. Otherwise your paints will mix, and you don't want that. As you can see already, the unevenness of the paint on the base, and that's exactly what you want. Wild Rider Red next. Build up a further red highlight, but a further red lighter stage before we move into the oranges. Once we get into the oranges, we'll start using slightly less paints. And the first one up is Troll Slayer Orange. My poor camera had a chance to focus there. As you can see, I did this stage in one shot because I didn't want a gajillion different clips to edit together. So there you go, start putting the orange on, that's looking good. And no, there's no patterns to this at all. Fire Dragon Bright. The next orange. Yes, there's a lot of paints used on this. A lot of different colours. But yeah, no particular pattern. Just grab it out of the pot, slap it on any old which way really. So as you can see, we're starting to use slightly less each time, letting the darker colours have control of the base, if you will. And there's a good mixture going on in there as the paints have been swished about on that base. First yellow, Uriel Yellow. Once the yellow goes on, you can, well, for me it starts to look a bit more like lava then. Once the yellows go on. Whack it on there. That's all you need to do. It really does not matter how you put it on. But it's worth taking the time to do this on your bases if this is the base effect you're wanting. Flash gets yellow. Next, for the final yellow, the more time you spend on them, it just makes it that so much more worthwhile. There you go, just plop a bit of that on there. And then once you've done that, you don't have to do this, but I personally like to go back to Mephiston Red again. Just a little bit. I've got a really knackered old brush for this one, but it doesn't matter. Just a tiny bit of Mephiston Red, just a streak across the middle there. That's all I do. Just to make it that much more random. And then we just wait for it to dry. There it is, all dry, the very same base. 24 hours later, so I came back to it the day after. You want it thoroughly dry before you put the Agrellan Earth on. Now this is the crackle medium paint that Games Workshop do, and it will give you a great effect. Now with this, for this you want to put it on really thick. No point thinking saving money by putting it on thinner, because it just doesn't come out as well. Put it on really thick. The thicker the better. The thicker you lay this paint on, the better it cracks. It shrinks right back, providing the cracks with the lava showing from it. It's just brilliant. And it doesn't. You could do the same sort of thing for ice effect. You know, it works just as well. Cracked earth over ice. Cracked earth over black. You know, it's great. Cracked earth over some greens and poisons and toxic things coming through the earth. The possibilities are endless with this. But for me, the lava effect is what I want to go for when I'm putting like demons and all that kind of stuff on bases. I think it just looks better. They come from some demonic realm, crossing over into whatever realm they've crossed over into, I guess. At the moment it just looks like a Vallejo basing mud brown, but once it's dry it will crack, and I'll show you how it cracks on another base I did. So that's what it looks like once it's dry, and that's 24 hours after that base was done, and that's the same base you saw earlier with the colours on it. So when it's dry it will look a bit like that, and at this close up angle it looks kind of cool, but now you want to bring it out so it looks good on the tabletop, so a few feet away, otherwise it will lose that kind of effect somewhat. So you need to dry brush or over brush the darker colour over the top of that. And for this, I use a Badham Black. A nice soft bristle brush to overbrush this with, or dry brush this with. And if you let the cracked earth thoroughly dry, you shouldn't have too much problem with it, with the bits chipping off. I mean, you can, if you want to, chip off bits purposely, if you want that to be the way you want it to go, and that looks cool as well. I've seen that, and that looks really cool. But for me, my own personal preference, I prefer to have it intact. So if it's thoroughly dry, you can dry brush it fairly well. You know, you haven't got to worry too much. And if the odd bit should come off here and there, it doesn't really matter. It does add to it. But I was aiming for it to be intact, and I succeeded. So that's cool. Just dry brush over the top with the Badham Black, or overbrush rather, or a combination of the two, really, somewhere in between. and it brings out the lava and the brighter colours. When you stick it on the tabletop a few feet away from you, it really does look the business. It really does. Camera going a bit out of focus. Sure, it'll focus again in a moment. And it's up to you how far you want to go with it. I mean, you could proceed to do total stone effect over the top of that lava, as in my stone effect tutorial. Be the same method for that. I just wanted black on the top there, or the sooty black kind of look to it. And yes, I will colour the edges of the base as well at some point. Probably brown, or I might go over it black. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. Probably try brown and then go over it. But this is how it will look. And then it looks pretty much like the first one I showed you does. Compare them side by side, you can see they're pretty much identical. I think they just look fantastic. Then what you need to do is to seal it, and for this I used a generic sealer matte varnish from my local hobby shop, and just spray that over the top. You can brush the sealer over it, it doesn't really matter, but I prefer the spray, and that's it. Easy as that. Hey, I hope you found that tutorial pretty useful and you can get some sort of use out of it and you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe and share as much as you can. And I'll see you on the next video. Remember, all brushes lead to war.